All right, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:35 p.m. Boy, have we got a meeting for you. Before I get started with the rest of the agenda, I do want to acknowledge that today I'm chairing this meeting from the traditional and unceded territories of the Katy and Kwantlen First Nations. This is where I am calling in from today. This is colonially known as Maple Ridge. I do want to also acknowledge, though, that the work that we do in person is located on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, and Katy nations. And I want to hold this space to just acknowledge that when we do these acknowledgements, that it's not just that, but it's also a call to action to ensure that we're always standing in solidarity with Indigenous peoples and understanding what our roles are as student society leaders in that. And we'll begin, as we always do in our meetings, with roll call of attendance. So I'll just call on folks by position, and if you can please just state your name, your pronouns, and any access needs that you might have, that would be fantastic. And we'll get started with the chair of the ECA committee and the VP External and Community Affairs. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Ishana Burun. My pronouns are she, her, and all my access needs are met. Just one thing, my Wi-Fi does cut out sometimes, so please be patient if it does. Thanks, folks.
The VP Equity and Sustainability. And they're just putting in the chat. I'll come back to you once that's in the chat. We'll move on to the English counselor, which is me. Hey everyone, my name is Gabe Leosis. My pronouns are he, him, his, and my access needs are met. History counselor.
Hey everyone, my name is Matthew Reed. My pronouns are he, him, and currently all my access needs are met.
And Indigenous Studies counselor.
Howdy, my name's Anita. Trying out the name Nebula, and I use they, them pronouns. My access needs are met.
Thank you very much. And just noting that I will come back to Ria once Ria's put their intro in the chat, but I will move on for now to society staff, starting with board organizer.
Hi everyone, this is Ella, pronoun she, her, hers. My access needs are mostly met, but I'm going to take a little less of an active role tonight just so I can get some personal stuff done during the meeting as well.
And administrative assistant.
Hi everyone, I'm Simmer. My pronouns are he and him, and all my access needs are met. Thank you.
Great, thank you everyone. So next up on our agenda is consent. Oh, let me go back to Ria. In the chat, hi everyone, my name is Ria. My pronouns are she, her, or they, them. Access needs are that she is taking care of her grandma due to medical concerns and some background noise in the background. Thank you, Ria. And that takes us to item 4 on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. It doesn't look like there's anything in our consent agenda for tonight, so we can just move on from that and move directly into section 5, which is adoption of the agenda. And I'll read the motion now. Be it resolved to adopt the agenda as presented. And since we're such a small group and we all have our cameras on, you can just raise your hand if you like, or unmute your mic and say your name. I'll pick on someone. It doesn't really matter how we do it. Do I have a mover? Anita, do I have a second? Matthew. Thanks, folks. The floor is open for discussion on the motion on the floor. Are there any amendments to be made to tonight's agenda?
Yes.
Ishana,
Sorry, my chat won't work. May I speak?
Yeah, that's
okay,
all,
cool. Yeah. Can I move to strike motion 10.4 new business?
Okay, so Ishana's moving to strike 10.4 new business. So that's the motion titled approving funds for the Labor Notes Conference. Is there a second? Matthew seconds. Ishana, did you just want to quickly explain why you're doing that?
Yeah, I'm just doing this because we already passed the funds at the last council meeting, so there's no point, there's no funds to pass anymore.
Thanks, Ishana. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put this to a vote. This is the amendment to the agenda. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to vote against or abstain, use the Zoom raise hand feature and move to a roll call vote. But I'm seeing no hands. So that amendment is carried. And so we're back to the main motion. Be it resolved to adopt the agenda as amended. Any last questions or concerns with today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll put this to a vote as well. The main motion, be it resolved to adopt the agenda as amended. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent on the motion. Seeing none, that is carried. And that takes us to section 6 rather, of our agenda. And the first item is 6.1, Introduction to the External and Community Affairs Committee. This was submitted by Ishana, and there will be a presentation to accompany, or rather a PowerPoint to accompany this presentation. And I will share the presentation for you folks, and Ishana will be presenting. So Ishana, the floor is yours.
Amazing. Thank you, Gabe. Yeah, I'm just going to do a quick intro to the ECA committee, kind of what we're going to be doing. It's not limited to this, but kind of just so you folks know where we can kind of start off. We want to go to the next slide.
Sorry, just having difficulty here. There we go.
No worries. So what is the External and Community Affairs Committee? So we do a lot of advocacy work, and we also lobby the government at all levels, federal, provincial, and municipal. We do a lot of campaigns. For example, one which is really huge that we're going to do I think in the fall semester, are going to be the Get Out to Vote campaign. It's going to be super huge, and we're going to be doing a lot of work on it. That's one of the campaigns. And I kind of wanted to make the committee, like, I have my annual plan, but I want to make one where like we have our own too, like as a committee, like ourselves, to see what you guys want to accomplish as well. But like talking about that, the ECA committee also supports my annual plan. So the projects that I do have, I will need help for some of it. For example, we may table during the Get Out to Vote campaign. I'm also planning on doing a water drive. So maybe like coming down to East Van and giving out water, things like that, and maybe more of like a hands-on approach of, oh, can you talk to this person and get this done? Or would you like to accompany me to this meeting with this politician? So we have like those opportunities as well to talk to the government, and then get that experience on how to talk to the government and how to lobby the government. We also plan and develop our own initiatives, as I talked about. And on to the next slide. And finally, we kind of do what we want to do, of course, in the scope of the ECA committee of lobbying and things like that, but also I want to hear what you guys want to do, what you folks want to do. If you may think something is not in the scope of ECA, we can try and figure it out to help you to see how we can make that happen. But otherwise, normally with most things, if you think it's like related to lobbying, more community activism, then for sure we can do it. Just bring it up to me and we can figure it out. But yeah, that's kind of what we do in ECA. It's going to be a good time.
Thank you, Ishana, for the presentation. Yeah, and I think later on in our agenda, we'll also have an opportunity to kind of just chat about, as a committee, what kind of projects we want to take on that might be outside of Ishana's own annual plan. So start brainstorming in your heads, and we'll chat about that later. In terms of the presentation or the purpose of ECAC, did anyone have any questions for Ishana? Matthew? Oh, sorry, Matthew, then Anita.
So sorry, I think we raised our hands at the same time. What is your most immediate what is the project that you think is like the most immediate that you were concerned about? I worded that poorly, but I think I got the message across. You are currently muted.
Ishana?
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, you guys, you folks, whoops. Okay, yeah, so right now I just finished the 2023 budget consultation. The next kind of plans that we have are an anti-TMX day of action. I do know in my annual plan, I put it like towards like the end of my term, but the TMX pipeline, like those tank farms are like an issue right now. So we're gonna try and get an anti-TMX day of action happening. We also have, as I talked about, the water drive coming up. As you folks know, we had a really, really bad heat wave last summer, so we're trying to prepare for that. I'm starting initial meetings with staff right now. I've also brought it up to some politicians to just say, hey, we want to do this. I also know that the city of Burnaby has cooling centers, but I'm also seeing if we can have one maybe in Surrey as well, maybe Burnaby, see what works best. And a big project that I also want to start working from now is our municipal elections, so that get out to vote campaign. So those are kind of like, so my main things, basically water drive and municipal elections and anti-TMX day of action.
Thank you so much.
Did you want to go, Anita?
It was kind of a question for everyone, which is like, have folks who's been on this committee before, and what was it like? Like how much is too much for us to try to do?
Ishana?
That's a good question. So I have personally never been on the committee. And first time as chair as well. Speaking to what you talked about, I think we can figure that out, like when we talk about our plans and things as well. My kind of philosophy towards this is like, we can't be too ambitious. Like, of course, we'll work in our own capacities. Let's see what we want to do. Let's make like a plan for it in terms of like, if we have a project, let's do it week by week. Let's not like be like, oh, it's like this certain day. I also, a big thing for me is capacity. I want to make sure that you folks like keep in mind your capacity and we don't overwork ourselves as well. So thinking about that, we can accomplish projects and stuff of what we want to do in terms of our capacity and also what students want. Because we advocate for the students, right? So we're gonna accomplish as much as we can within our capacities and our roles. Yeah. Anyone else want to add anything? All good? Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks for the question. We'll move on then to our next presentation, which is 6.2, Establishing Community Guidelines for the External and Community Affairs Committee. And Ishan is also going to lead this one.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure we're all on the same page for community guidelines, in terms of how we communicate with one another, what we expect from one another, if we're comfortable, also boundaries that we have for one another. Super, super important that we respect each other and each other's boundaries, especially in all of this work that we do. Yeah, so I know Gabe is going to pull up a Jamboard right now. So if you want to click on that link, so I was just thinking that we can kind of, if you are comfortable, you can raise your hand, and put out some things that you think would be good to have as our community guidelines for this committee. And then Gabe will write them down on the Jamboard so you can see.
I think people themselves may actually be able to put their own sticky notes as well too.
Oh my gosh, put your own sticky note if you would like. Yeah, so we can take till a couple minutes to do that. I won't rush it, or I won't put a timestamp. I'll just see how full it gets. And then we can like have conversations for it while still filling it out. Yeah, so I'm seeing some great points right now. Keep on going. I can kind of start talking to some if folks are okay with that. Amazing. Yeah, so honor lived experiences. This is so important. And also I saw someone put assume best intent, but also acknowledge impact. We may not always know when we cause harm, but if we are called in, that isn't a bad thing. It's just acknowledging what has been done, apologizing, and just making sure that we don't do it in the future. It's not a bad thing because we all make mistakes, but making sure that we acknowledge what has been done. Also, speaking to each other with respect is a very big thing, like making sure we acknowledge our tone, how we're talking to people, especially how much space we take up in conversations. Yeah. I'm also seeing make sure topics and concepts are explained well so everyone can work together fairly. Yeah, 100%. Making sure that we know what we're doing as well. Speaking to that, if folks are comfortable, always ask questions. If you're not sure about what's happening, let us know and we can make it accessible as possible. Also talking about it now, like let me know if you are comfortable, let me know if you have any access needs. And if I can make things easier for folks as well, I'll do my best, make sure things are done. Respect each other's capacities is also very important. To that, also making sure we don't overcommit ourselves. Of course, I get that sometimes we can't do things that we said we are going to do, but making sure that we follow through when we can. And also, if you aren't able to do something, please just communicate that to make sure that someone else can be given that duty or that job. And oh, I also just saw that have accessible meetings, materials, and events, 100%. Prioritize relationships with each other, with SFSS and the SFU community, and with the wider community, 100%. We are autonomous as a society for a reason to advocate for students, making sure that everything we do is centered on our membership, especially recognizing marginalized groups on campus and making sure that in the work we do, marginalized groups are centered. I'm already seeing like we're all like on the same page here, which is really great. I just want to open up the floor as well if anyone else wants to speak to anything. Ria, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add, I put in like prioritizing rest and celebration and like celebrating wins. Yeah, I think that's super important too. Just because like I know a lot of the work that we do, and I know a lot of us are involved in a lot of different groups, but like it's important to like be with community too, and like all the work that we are doing with different community members, like taking the time to celebrate and acknowledge like all the amazing work that we will be doing.
Thank you so much for saying that, Ria. It's so true. Because we are going to be doing a lot of good work in this committee. It's going to be really exciting. And the fact that we get to kind of be in the community, we can also like see those wins as well, you know, which will be really great. Talking about, I know we'll talk about this in the future as well, but talking about community, like I can kind of put community guidelines in this. We may have like little socials and things. Also during our meetings, like if once they are in person, because I do want to have more in-person committee meetings if folks are comfortable. I want to have like a little time where we're able to socialize, get to know each other more. And then I feel like through that, we'll be able to work together as well, of course, within our boundaries. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. Any other thoughts that folks had? Also, I just want to say that community guidelines are always not necessarily like a living document, but always living. We can always add things to our community guidelines. If you have any questions, please let us know. Yeah, thanks, folks. I think that's basically it for this.
Thanks, Shauna. Yeah, so we'll keep this and we'll probably revisit it a couple of times, and we'll just as a committee come together and say, you know, does this still reflect what we as a collective believe and espouse? Are these the values that we want to bring to this table? And if we feel that something has changed or we want to add something, then we will create that space in the future, which I think is cool. So with that, we'll move into our next item. We're moving on to section 7 of our agenda. This is report from committees, and evidently there is no report from a committee, but it is a report from Ishana, and Ishana is gonna do a little presentation on what has been going on in her portfolio and her position as Vice President, External and Community Affairs. Off to you.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to tell you folks what I've been working on in a little bit more detail. I know I've talked a little bit about it during council, but I guess to start off, finish my annual plan. Gabe helped me a ton with that. So I worked on my annual plan with Matt, who was the previous VP External. So I made sure that I was building upon the work that he did, and I was making sure not to reinvent the wheel in the work that I was doing this year. So kind of building upon, especially like, for example, in regards to the gondola, making sure I keep in contact with folks who Matthew kept in contact with. For instance, with like I met with the mayor of Burnaby today, and we talked about the gondola. And the mayor of Burnaby had a really good working relationship with Matt. So I just met with him, had an introductory meeting with the mayor, talked about the gondola, got updates, things like that. I'll tell you folks more about it. But yeah, so annual plan. Emails were sent to external groups, so I met with politicians. We're nearing the end of those meetings, but I do know that we will have more meetings coming up after municipal elections. Also, after meeting with politicians, a lot of them wanted to come to the sub and have a tour. So I was thinking that maybe with our external external community and affairs committee, we could have them come to the sub, we could give a tour, tell them a little bit about our committee, and then also get experience talking to politicians. I do know that it can be a little nerve-wracking sometimes. It definitely was for me at first, but everyone is normally pretty nice, so there's that. I also met with the Alliance of BC Students, so they advocate for students. They lobby the government for students as well. So I had a meeting with their chairperson and their president, and we kind of just talked about areas where we may be able to collaborate, which is really great. I know that their chairperson also came to one of the events hosted by our VP Equity, which is really amazing, the Palestinian Liberation event. And then I also met up with other student unions such as AMS, UVSS, and the University of the Fraser Valley Student Union. I don't know their exact student union name, but I met up with them as well. Really amazing folks. And after meeting with them, I could kind of tell that across like student unions, a lot of us have the same problems. So if we want to like lobby the government, we can get together and really show numbers of, hey, students have these problems, it's across the board and it needs to change. Yeah, like bring those numbers and the pressure to the government. Something which I just finished, which was super exciting, but a lot of work, was the 2023 budget consultation. So that initially started just talking to staff about it. I know that Gabe helped me set up a lot of those meetings. So it kind of just started off with talking to staff about, okay, what are we going to do for like recommendations? Because you first need to submit recommendations, 3 of them to the finance committee, and then they review it and they see if you will present in person to them or online or on the phone. Luckily, we actually got a chance to present online. We wanted in person too, but online is great as long we still get to say what we need to say. So we got that, and then literally I think I had a week to finish the written submission and the script. So I was kind of freaking out in the moment. But I had a bunch of meetings with staff. The VP Equity actually helped me with the written submission as well, which was really amazing. Staff really helped a lot in terms of research and kind of thinking of, okay, how can I kind of frame the arguments that I am making as advocating on behalf of the society. And then we went in and then we made our script, which the president of SFSS and Gabe helped me out with a lot. I remember before the budget consultation, I was like practicing for half an hour and Gabe was there and then I was like trying to time myself. It was really good. So yeah, we submitted recommendations. The finance committee reviewed them. They were like, oh, okay, we want to hear more about this. We presented to the finance committee online, and then we also submitted a written submission. So the written submission was submitted 3 days before the actual presentation because the finance committee just, so they have time to review what I'm going to talk about. And I can also share all these documents with you folks as well, so you know what I'm referring to. I can send that in an email. Yeah. And then Gabe and I, we were also setting up committees. So getting that email out to you folks, getting the agenda set up. We also had prep for this meeting to make sure we knew what we were talking about, and making sure that we are transparent in what we are doing to not only like the committee, but also making sure council as well knows what we are doing, which is really important. As Ria just said, celebrating our wins. And showing that this work is being done and this work does make a difference, which is really amazing. So I'm really happy that you folks decided to join this committee. Yeah, I think that is, oh yeah, that's basically it in terms of what is kind of coming up. I know this question was kind of asked, but the water drive, municipal elections, also applications were sent out for at-large members for this committee. So I'll be reviewing those. I think applications actually closed today. So I'll be reviewing those. And Ria and I and the president will be going to Chicago this week. So we'll be reporting back on what we learn at the Labor Notes conference because it'll help us a lot in terms of lobbying. I saw that there are actually like really cool workshops for lobbying and campaigning, which I'll bring back to this committee and then see how we can strengthen our campaigns and see how we can be successful in lobbying the government this year. Yeah, that is basically what I had to say.
Thanks, Ishana. Any questions from committee members on the work that Ishana's been up to? Seeing none, thanks, Ishana. And that takes us into new business. And the first item in new business is 10.1, electing an external and community affairs vice chair. And I'll read the motion first. The motion reads, be it resolved to appoint Act as the vice chair of the External and Community Affairs Committee for the 2022-23 council year. Do I have a mover? Matthew moves. Is there a second?
VP External.
Oh, that's a tough one. Ishana, I'm gonna go with you. And we'll open up discussion for this motion. Does anyone want me to explain the rules of doing an election, or do we feel we're comfortable with it after having done it at council 20,000 times? I'm totally fine explaining it. I just want to double check that everyone's good with it. Fantastic. Okay. Well, we'll move forward with this then. I'll start with my first call for nominations for anyone who's interested in being the vice chair of the External and Community Affairs Committee. First call for nominations. Second call. Okay, I'm gonna put my name forward just because I wanted to wait to see if anyone else wanted to do it before I put my name. Okay, I'm gonna put my name forward, but just in case, I'm gonna do my third call for nomination. Third call. Okay, seeing none, then I'm acclaimed in that election. Thank you, everyone. That was so weird. I've never done that. I've never elected myself while chairing the meeting. I probably broke some kind of rule doing that, but anyway.
I mean, if it helps, I can list and then nominate you.
You know what? Let's do that.
All right. I nominate Gabe Leosis to the role of vice chair.
Gabe, do you accept? Yes, I accept. All right. There's no one else, so we'll do the formal bit. So I move to strike X in the motion with Gabe Leosis. Is there a second?
VP External.
Ishana seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll put that to a vote. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent. Seeing none, that amendment is carried, and so we're back to the main motion. Be it resolved to appoint Gabe Leosis as the Vice Chair of the External and Community Affairs Committee for the 2022-23 council year. And we'll put this to a vote as well. This is the main motion, seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to vote against or abstain, please raise your hand using the Zoom raise hand feature. And I'm seeing none, so that is carried as amended. We'll move on to our next motion then, which is 10.2, approving funds for food and drink at External and Community Affairs Committee meeting. And the motion reads, be it resolved to approve X dollars from the External and Community Affairs Committee budget to spend on food and drinks for in-person External and Community Affairs meetings for the summer 2022 semester. Do I have a mover? Matthew moves. Do I have a second? Ria seconds. Discussion. I'll pass it over to Ishana.
Yeah, so having more hybrid and in-person meetings, I wanted to make sure that you folks are able to have some food and drink as well. So I talked to staff about getting some food and like coffee and stuff from Blends. So the receipt that I got was for 14 people. It came out to, so it was like that thing, that like box of coffee that you can take, and then some like pastries and stuff. So 14 people, it was around 100 and, I don't want to lowball it, like 120, between 120 to 150, something like that. So that was for 14 people for one time. We're also keeping in mind that, of course, it's like just us right now, but we will be having at-large members. So I'm just thinking, if folks also want to chip in of like how much you think that we should pass, let me know, because I'm still thinking about it. Because this is just for the summer semester. So we have a couple months left, because right now it's June, and then we have till September, right? July, August, and we're gonna have like 4 more meetings. Maybe. Is it like, yeah, about 4 more. So I'll just put like a number out there. Maybe around, what do folks think about like $250-ish? And then we can also raise it if we do need more. Or do folks think I should pass more? Any thoughts on this? Yes, Ria?
Matthew?
How many meetings were you hoping to have in person? I think is what it kind of comes down to. If we're hoping to have like 2 meetings in person, then the 120 to 150 might be a little bit low. We might be closer to like $240 to $300 if it's like 2 meetings, 2 of the 4. And in terms of accessibility too, I know like we're going to be staring down the barrel of summer heat at that point. That's not going to be fun for a lot of people to make it all the way out to campus. I know for myself, I think Gabe, you mentioned this as well. We're from Maple Ridge. That's quite a trip. And I think Ishana Ray, you're both out in Surrey and White Rock. That's not a fun trip either, right? So I think we have to first figure out how many of those meetings we want to have in person, and then we can figure out how much money we want to spend.
Yeah, because I know I was thinking of having hybrid meetings as well. Yeah, I think it'll depend. Yeah, I'm just thinking of how many at-large members as well, and then what their capacities would be. Thinking it's going to be hybrid because they will be in person too. Like I know that Gabe and I want to be in person. Maybe let's pass for thinking about 4 more meetings. Do you want to, we can pass 250 right now. If we need to do more, we'll do. What do you think, Gabe?
Well, what we could do is pass like up to a certain amount, and then we don't even have to use it all.
Okay.
We can just highball it, and then
let's do that.
We don't use, yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, let's do up to, and then, yeah, because then we'll still get access to those funds if we need it for like something else if we don't use it for here, right? Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, okay, let's do that. If it's like an up to amount, how much do folks think? Gabe, do you have a thought on this?
I'd just say like 500.
Okay, yeah. But this is for like just the summer semester? Because that like 120 to 150 was for like 14 people.
Yeah. I mean, we could always just strike the part of the motion that says for the summer and just use it for fall and for as long as that, until that money is depleted, and then we need to pass another motion.
Yeah, okay. Anita is also saying in the chat, I probably won't come to many in-person meetings. I like the nice round number. The board organizer Ella also said 500 is a good ballpark. Yeah, if we don't have to use all of it. I guess 500 sounds good to me if folks are okay with that.
Do you want to move the motion?
Yes.
History moves.
All right, so history is moving to strike X with up to $500. Is there a second? Nebula seconds. I really like that. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll put the amendment to a vote. All those in favor, seeking unanimous consent. That's carried, and we're back to the main motion. I think I'm also just going to move to strike the words at the end of the motion for the summer 2022 semester, just so that it's a general, like we can use this until it runs out. So I'm moving that amendment. Is there a second?
VP external.
Ishana seconds. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor seeking unanimous consent? That's carried. And so we're back to the main motion. I don't anticipate we'll have any more discussion on the main motion, so I'll just read it one more time so everyone knows what the final result, the final product of this motion is. So it reads, be it resolved to approve up to $500 from the ECA budget to spend on food and drinks for in-person ECA meeting. We will put the main motion to a vote. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent. That is carried as amended unanimously. Okay, let's move on to 10.3, and then after that, we can probably take a quick 5 or 10 minute break. So 10.3 is titled Approving Funds for the Tuition Freeze Now Survey. This was submitted by Ishana. And the motion reads, whereas the TSSU and SFSS are releasing a survey to get student input on a tuition freeze Whereas as per Issues Policy 3, the Issues Policy on Tuition Affordability, the SFSS supports tuition freeze now. Be it resolved to pass $100 from the ECAC budget for prizes for the Tuition Freeze Now survey. Do I have a second or a mover?
CP equity.
Ria moves. Is there a second?
History. Oh, Nebula said it, indicated as well.
Okay, Nebula second. Is there discussion? Shauna, I'll pass it off to you.
I think Nebula listed
I'm
first.
sorry, yeah, I had missed that. Go ahead first.
I'm wondering the breakdown of that.
Yeah, so basically, I just explaining what this survey is. It's released also by a bunch of like student groups who support the Tuition Freeze Now campaign. It's basically asking the government to freeze tuition because it is unfeasible for students to pay that much, and education is a human right and it should be free. So basically, we're just kind of seeing where students are at for a tuition freeze now, if they support it, if they like it, kind of where they see concerns in this as well, so we can advocate for them in the best way. Also in the survey, you'll see we ask questions about affordable housing and how tuition may impact the way, like the quality of student life as well, and socially as well. So the $100 is basically just a cash prize for students who take the survey. So $100 was given by Ria, I know you know as well, but TSSU, was it GSS? And I think another student group, I think it was the TIA union at UBC. And then the SFSS, we also want to contribute $100, to be fair. Yeah, and then Ria put the details in the chat. Nebula, did you have any follow-up questions to that or anything I can clarify?
Is that $100, is that a prize for one person, or is that broken down into further gift cards?
The $100 is for one person. So there are $400 cash prizes to get students to incentivize students to take the survey. Yeah, of course. Thanks for asking.
Any other questions or discussion on this item? Sounds good. We'll put this to a vote. So be it resolved to pass $100 from the ECAC budget for prizes for the Tuition Freeze Now survey. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent on the motion. That is carried unanimously. We will now take a bit of a break. So I think we don't have much by way of discussion items. That won't take long. So maybe 5-minute break and we'll return at 7:25. All right, see you then. Ishana, did you want to pause the recording? Awesome. We'll reconvene then at 7:25, and we're now in discussion items, and we'll begin with 11.1, which is an overview of the 2022-23 VP External and Community Affairs Annual Plan. And I'll pass this off to Ishana.
Yeah, I can just share my, oh, I'm sharing everything. Oh wait, one sec. Sorry. Share my screen. Okay, cool. Hey everyone. Yeah, I'm just going to, I know I shared this during council. I'm just going to do a more in-depth view on my annual plan, give you folks a chance to really ask me any questions. Please, like while I'm explaining, ask me questions while I'm doing so I can explain it in the moment. So as I said before as well, this is sent to external groups. It kind of helps them understand what my goals are. Also, I try and send it before meetings as well. So when I meet with politicians, I try and send an agenda. We have prep sessions. So we try and think of a few, like 4 to 5 topics that we can focus on with talking to politicians, which go with their kind of portfolios you could say, or within their roles, how they can help support us the most. So I kind of send this annual plan and my agenda, so they can go through my annual plan, have a feel of what I'm going to ask them about, so they can prepare as well, so they're not kind of put on the spot. Also, I feel like when we do send an agenda, we have better answers given to us in terms of, okay, we can support you here, but oh no, we can't support you here, which makes sense. It's better to have like the truth than say, oh, I can support you when they can't really support. So yeah, I try to have like an introduction as well. I am a person, so making sure they know like, oh, like this is what I want to do. These are some of my main goals. Something which is really, I really kind of try and relate to politicians, politicians specifically, is making sure that all the work I do is centered in equity and justice, and to center marginalized folks in all the work that I do. Yeah, basically, I won't go too much into it. Also just saw the chat. Super wholesome picture. A little context on that picture. I think that was my first day in office, or like sometime in my first week when I took that picture. Wanted to share it on social media too, to be like, hey, starting this role. Also putting what we do up on like the SFSS social media is super important as well. Like showing students what we do, and filling up our Instagram page, because that's what it's there for. Which is, you'll see like I have a bunch of photos of on their meeting people, going to events. Ria and I have also gone to a bunch together. Yes, photo creds to Ria. Gonna go back to it right there in the office. So I kind of split it up into the terms. So summer, fall, and spring. So I know what projects I'm doing when. It's also split up by months. So in May, which has already passed, relationship building. This kind of went into June as well, which I'm working on right now. So meeting with people who Matt had relationships with, making sure that I also keep those relationships going, especially with some folks at SFU who help out us as well with government relations. Yeah, so meeting with external groups, not only politicians, as I explained before, student unions as well, seeing how we can work together and collaborate. As I talked about before as well, I won't repeat myself, the Budget 23 consultation. Let me know if you have any questions on that. I will be sending resources. Also setting up the ECA committee. I know that also went into June a bit, but we did start planning pretty early on of like what we kind of wanted to do. You'll see like the committee last year. Also, like maybe we can take a good photo too, like this. Hopefully we can all be looking into the camera too, if folks are comfortable, because you can see, I don't think anyone knew the photo was being taken. But yeah, and as you'll see, like we have this committee, we're going to be planning projects, working together, going through multiple development sessions, which we will also be talking about together to see what you folks want development sessions on, and seeing if we can make that happen. June right now, recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day. So really just amplifying and supporting the work of Indigenous folks on campus. I know that we have a lot of events happening too, so just supporting those, amplifying it. As a SFSS, we also submit a statement and we post it on our on the SFSS website. So the VP External is currently helping me on that. I finished it, just sent it off for editing, making sure I'm using the right language and things like that, and I'll be sending that off fairly soon. ECA committee at-large member applications, those also went out in June, and I will be reviewing those fairly soon as well, making sure that like the SFSS membership themselves have the opportunity to do the work that we're doing as in exec and council. This is literally coming up on Thursday, the Labor Notes Conference. So the VP Equity and I and the president will be joining a ton of union members and labor activists. I know that, well, Ria and I, we work really closely with the TSSU and the GSS as well. So I feel like this will also help us learn how to solidify those relationships. Like they are solidified, but making sure that we know how to support and amplify the work done as well. And I know that in this committee as well, we'll be working with those folks. So we'll bring back, as I said before, what we learned there here, helping us campaign and lobby, really just having those sessions to really solidify the work that we're gonna do in the next year. In July, we're going to be starting municipal election planning. I've already kind of started it. I've sent some calendar invites to folks to have those initial meetings, and then what I learned from those meetings, I'll bring back to this committee, and then we can kind of see how we want to do our campaign, how you folks can also support me in what I hope to accomplish within it. And of course, I can kind of delve into this a bit more. In terms of like the Get Out to Vote campaign for municipal elections, I'm thinking of having a package for students where I talk about, for example, what is voting? Why do we vote? Who are you voting for? Who are the candidates? Also, like basically like the importance of voting. I also want to try and get a voting booth on campus. I know that Gabe was talking about how we had one a couple years ago, and Gabe himself voted there. So I feel like it'd be really great. Like, it's super easy. Students are on campus. Why not have a voting booth? There are literally like over 26,000 students here on campus. It makes sense. So I'm going to be reaching out to the elections officer and then seeing what we can do there. Also starting planning for the water drive and donation drive, and having cooling centers on our campuses. So basically, delving into this a bit more, we're gonna see like how we can get our supplies, if we can get support from other external groups, politicians, seeing if they want to help us out a bit. And also like seeing what you folks think we can do with this. And then we can like meet up on like the downtown east side. Also in Surrey, I know that Ria has done work there as well. So really like building upon the work that has been done by other external community members themselves. Yeah, just making sure that we're able to support the community as well, in our roles and in our capacities. If folks know, we also have a community fridge project. So I think the fridge is not on the sub level 1000 right now, just making sure that gets put back there and making sure that we continue this project. Sorry, my ringer is on, I'll turn that off. Yeah, so making sure we continue this project, making sure that we have a food security resources on campus for students. As we know, groceries, everything is expensive right now, and supporting students as best as we can, and having this fridge is a great resource. Something amazing which happened last term was the Burnaby Mountain Gondola being endorsed by the city of Burnaby. This is something that I've talked about with multiple politicians now, kind of seeing what our next steps are. What we're hearing is funding. We now need to apply pressure for funding. So we can start a campaign to see where we can get funding from. It's mostly from the higher ups in the government, so talking to MLAs, MPs, and then we can go to those meetings together, seeing what we can do, talking about the importance of the gondola and how it creates accessibility. Also, people from the community can also come and enjoy like the campus, which will be really great. Yeah. And also just continuing on the work that was done for like over 10 years now for this, and making sure that this does get done. August, municipal elections continued, just making sure we keep doing that work. Orange Shirt Day, recognizing Orange Shirt Day. I do know that we also collaborate with, not collaborate, but work with VP events as well, and the VP equity, making sure that what we do is just supporting and amplifying the work of Indigenous folks, seeing what we can do. Oh no, 1 second. I'm just gonna restart my Wi-Fi. Give me I might pause for a minute. Can you see me now? Okay, I might have to reload it.
Hey, Shauna, I have your annual plan up if you just want me to share my screen.
Would you be able to do that? That'd be great.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, what month was it on?
August, right? I think August. It was just right after Orange Shirt Day. Yeah, just
Okay.
one page lower. Perfect. Yeah, so then we have the SFSS AGM. I kind of want to have this month more free because this will take up a lot of time. So making sure that I just continue working on the projects that I am working on, but I won't start anything new here. Fall, summer is over. September, municipal elections happening again. Municipal elections will be the next month. So this month will be very busy. Making sure that we do get voter turnout. Something that I would like our committee to work on is tabling. So we can be in the sub, tabling and telling students what voting is, kind of enticing them to be like, oh, like this is something which is super amazing that we can do, and telling them why we vote. And I was thinking we can have like snacks and stuff for students to give out while we're talking about, and having those packages ready for them, to saying like who candidates are, things like that. Something else which I wanted to plan is maybe a debate on our campuses for municipal elections. It will be a lot of work, but I think it'll be really great. So we can have students talk about what like the questions that they have for candidates, and then we can hold debates on all 3 of our campuses. We're still in the works seeing if that can be done, but maybe it's something we can have like a further conversation on, and then I can put in a discussion item and then we can see how we feel about it. And then we have the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Something which I would like to happen is the province recognizing this and having this as a holiday. When I have brought it up to politicians, it's something that I have heard is just that, oh, we're not sure because of school days and things like that. But I feel like we can really push and like have this happen, making sure that they know the importance of having this as a holiday and recognizing it as a provincial holiday is very important. So we can see how we can push and lobby here. On to the next slide, page, please. October, the AGM. Yeah, not starting any new projects, continuing to work on the other projects and prioritizing AGM prep. Basically just reading off of what is said there. But yeah, next page, please. November. November on is a lot of lobbying. So we have fall lobbying. So preparing for lobby days. So 2 of the main issues that I have, of course, like we're gonna be talking about this as a group to see what we all want to lobby. But something that I've heard from students or big asks is tuition affordability and more grants and bursaries for BIPOC folks. Also something big is housing affordability. So we can also add that in. And then also in November, we're going to start having those meetings again with politicians because municipal elections will be done. So I'm hoping that we can go to those meetings together with politicians, introduce ourselves, kind of telling them the rest of our annual plan, introducing themselves to the SFSS, what we do, and how we can get support. Yeah, Gabe is away from the thing right now, but
Sorry, my dog was eating something.
no worries at all. Hope your dog is okay. December, issues policies. So there are some issues policies which Matt and I talked about as well, which I'll be showing in during like the Notion overview that I have. But yeah, working on some issues policies such as affordable housing and de-escalation and harm reduction. But yeah, next page. And then we're on to spring. So in January, defunding the police campaign. I know that No Cops on Campus came and presented to council. I'm also thinking right now that maybe we can have like another development session, or I'm not sure if there's one in the works, but maybe we can have one which is like specifically for the ECA on how we can help support and amplify with a campaign with folks who've already had experience doing that, making sure we aren't like reinventing the wheel in any way, and making sure we build upon the work that is being done. Federal lobbying. So during January, we'll also be doing some federal lobbying. As I said before, tuition affordability, affordable housing, seeing what you guys want, seeing what you folks want to lobby, and having more meetings with government officials. Also, you'll see throughout the year, we're going to be having a lot of meetings with government officials, just keeping those relationships as well, making sure that we get the support that we need as a student society, and also seeing how they may need our support in helping pass things which help students, which may be in terms of housing affordability, seeing if we can help pass something like rent subsidies for students, things like that. And then I talked about those issues policies. I'm hoping to pass them in February. And then kind of February on is a lot of just tuition freeze campaign mobilization. The weather will be better, so I'm hoping that we can have a lot of like days of action. So working with other folks on campus who also support a tuition freeze, as we support in our issues policy. Yeah, if we want to go on to the next one. Yeah, basically tuition freeze, spring lobbying, affordable housing. Oh, a huge thing for me as well is international student supports. Ria and I were currently working on a campaign with Migrant Students United to remove the international student health fee. They pay a lot of money for their health fee when we have universal healthcare in Canada, which makes like no sense. And also it was said that this fee would be removed, but it was only removed for citizens. It was not removed for international students, and their health fee actually got raised, and there's no family plan with this as well. So they're paying much more, whereas like the fee before actually had a family plan. Now they have to pay for each individual person and their children, which is a lot of money. Yeah, and the fee was just brought, as Ria just put in the chat, and the fee was just brought in 3 years ago, right as the pandemic hit and people were unable to organize against it. So it was obviously like made so people can organize. So we're trying to make sure that we do organize this, and also as a domestic student being there to support and amplify the work that Migrant Students United does, especially in my role with like the resources that I have. Also having an anti-TMX day of action. I know we might move that earlier, but maybe have another one seeing how the situation is. April, having a huge TFN day of action. So hopefully you'll see that I have a lot of tuition freeze campaigns. I'm hoping that those build up to a really big day of action where we're able to get students from UBC, I don't even know, UBC, UVic. I know that Ria and I went to a rally on April 14th with UBC and UVic and a bunch of students who did this campaign, and it was really great. So I'm hoping we can get a really big day of action and really pressure the government to get a tuition freeze happening. Yeah, I think we're almost at the end. I think we are at the end.
That's the end.
That is the end. Any questions you folks have for me? I know that is also a lot. Oh yes, Anita, go ahead.
Hey, okay, I love this. So many things are like, yes, that's great. I know that a bunch of constituency groups, including out on campus and possibly SFPIRG, I think Women's Center as well, want to try to organize a referendum to slightly increase things so that they can get more funding. So if this is happening simultaneously with a tuition decrease waiver, how do we like not confuse messaging and also, you know, support these things that are both like social justice causes?
Yeah, definitely. So it's kind of pressuring the government to give more funding because we're asking for, so I can give kind of like context.
That's not my question. That's not my question. I know what we're asking for. It's just if we're trying to get students on board for both things simultaneously, how do we, because a lot of students don't know about either issue. I think there'll be a lot of conversations we'll need to have throughout the rest of this year to make sure that they're not happening completely simultaneously and that there's lots of education done to say, okay, there's a tuition freeze thing, we're campaigning with the government, please join us, rally for this. But also there's a very small fee increase to increase student supports for constituency groups. Support this as well. Because yeah, like fee increase or fee decrease are things that, you know, yeah, students don't look into.
Yeah, go ahead, Gabe.
It's a really good question. I don't know if I have the answer, but we should definitely look, like actually spend time thinking about how we can craft that messaging. I like just thinking about it. on the spot, I think there are very drastic differences in terms of what we're asking for both. I mean, when we're talking about campaigning to increase the fees of constituency groups, that's like, that could be as low as like each student paying like 75 cents more, or like $1 or $2 compared to hundreds and hundreds of more dollars in tuition dollars. So in my head, I know that difference, but I know it's hard for like the general membership to get a grasp on that idea, because all people see is, oh, you're just asking for more money, without really like taking the time to break down what we're actually asking for in terms of both the tuition freeze and an increase in constituency group funding. Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot I was chairing. Are there any other questions for Ishana? Okay, that sounds good. Ishana, did you want to lead the next discussion as well on creating an annual plan for the ECA committee for 2022-23?
Yes. Okay. So I kind of wanted to see what you folks wanted to do for like in the next year. What are some goals that you have? Seeing how if some of your goals may be different than mine. Let's see how like we can kind of do this. Like, let me know if you have any ideas. Also, it's okay if like there are no ideas right now. I know it's like super like right. Yes, Nebula. Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, you're muted. Yeah, I did the same thing.
Oh, embarrassing. I was just saying it feels nice to to have a new name tried out. Yeah, the goal that I've part of the reason I joined council is I'd like to get a committee together of different constituency groups and students and whoever to just talk about youth and care issues and how how post-secondaries can support. So this could also, and probably will, involve other institutions. And I think that this would be the committee to talk to about this, right? Equity as well.
Yeah, others. Ishana.
Yeah, definitely. Totally like a committee where I can help amplify campaigns and things like that. Well, we will amplify campaigns, seeing how we can lobby as well, how we can form a campaign for the government to see how we can get better support for youth in care. Also making sure that we have like the research to show government as well. So making that plan together sounds super great. Totally. Also, I wrote that down, so I'll make sure that we like follow up on that too. We can totally make it a discussion item in itself to see how we can plan. And then maybe we can get folks, once we also have at-large members, having like giving that project to you folks and then seeing, and then let me know how I can support in my role to like reaching out to external groups and then seeing if we can plan a day and meet with like a certain politician who has the capability to make those changes. Yes, Ria? Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure.
That's okay. Go ahead, Ria.
Yeah, I just want to add too, like there is a lot of overlap with a lot of like with the external committee and then equity and sustainability and like BIPOC, and like we can definitely like collaborate on a lot of things as well. But also another thing that I'm really passionate about as well is like anti-caste advocacy and like anti-Hindutva advocacy as well, and like how relevant and like prevalent it is like in with the diaspora in North America, and like bringing awareness to that and like amplifying like lower caste organizers here in the community as well, and like working in support. But it's definitely like a work in progress, and like we can work together on it too.
Ria, I think there's a question in the chat for you if you wanted to take a stab at that.
Oh, okay. Can you explain that further? This is a new term for me.
Yeah, for sure. So basically Hindutva is this like ideology right now that's in India where it's like kind of making India like claiming India as like a Hindu only like country. And like it is like inherently like a Hindu country, and like with the Prime Minister currently, like Modi, he's been it's been really dangerous, and there's been a lot of attacks on Muslim Indians and like basically any Indians who aren't Hindu. And it's like it's really bad, the situation. And also with the caste system as well. I can like touch on it more. Maybe I can do like a little presentation as well or something and like bring it forward to give more information, insight. But yeah, it's like actually like it's really huge in India. A lot of it is also like connected. There's overlap with like anti-Blackness as well, but it's like the caste system is like very disgusting and like very strong as well, and like basically like separating people based on where they're kind of like when they're born in their families, they're born into like certain castes, and there's like the higher caste and like lower caste, and like the people in the lowest caste are considered Dalit or like untouchables, and like they're paid I'm not sure if the knowledge about like the caste system as well, but yeah, basically in North America as well, there's a lot of casteism within a lot of spaces, especially in universities and also in like IT companies as well. And that's been like documented. And there's a lot of groups that are actually working on getting universities to state like within their discrimination policies that we will not discriminate based on caste as well. So one of the groups is Equality Labs. Yeah, so we can like, there's like a lot of groups, and like unfortunately they don't have too many resources here as well, and like not too much awareness because it's like in the communities and stuff. But yeah, hopefully that clarified anything, but yeah.
Ishana?
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Ria. That's super like great to know. Also, maybe we can have a development session like right there for anti-Hindutva. Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much for helping explain and like bringing that education in this moment. Really appreciate it. Amazing. Thanks, folks. Any other thoughts too?
I'm gonna list myself because I had a random idea. And this is a very half-baked idea, but I was thinking maybe we could formulate some kind of letter to the university, recognizing that it's Pride Month, about maybe doing like a Pride sidewalk somewhere on campus. Yeah, that was an idea of mine, and it seems like a pretty simple one that I think the university would be on board with. So that was just an idea of mine.
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
I should do stars, right, if I want to comment on something.
Yes, but go ahead.
Okay, I don't know if it's at all different because the university owns part of this land, it's Indigenous land, but I know that within cities, it is an absolute disaster, like hell thing to try to get a rainbow sidewalk. It costs tens of thousands of dollars and takes a lot of time. Yes, Gabe? You look like you're about to say something.
Oh no, I was just sighing.
Yeah, it is like, I know some people who like with a group of youth at a community center wanted to go through the process, and I heard another horror story, and it's a thing that a city council kind of has to pass, and it takes months and months, and it takes a lot of money because they also commit to maintaining it. So it's not really just a casual undertaking. I know it just seems like, oh, let's just splash some paint there, but then, you know, like if people deface it or something, then they then have to repaint it, and I think it's a whole thing. One thing, low-hanging fruit for Pride Month. Okay, I'll list myself.
Thank you, Nebula. I actually didn't know how much went into that, so that's good to know. Ria, you can go next.
Yeah, I just wanted to add about the like the in-person meetings. Like maybe we could do like maybe at the end of the summer semester something like one day where most people can make it, and then we can do like a little bit more of like a celebration or like social type of thing. And like for folks who can join in person, or like make sure we can get as many people who can come as well.
Nebula, go ahead.
Okay, I dropped a couple suggestions. We could do chalk, right? We could, although, you know, like how things went with the chalk thing. Was it chalk or was it paint? The whole, yeah, whatever. But I mean, you can't get mad at chalk, come on. So a low-hanging fruit is that I recently got a job through the Faculty of Arts and Applied Sciences. And the form that I had to fill out only had 2 gender options. And it was ridiculous. They don't even need to ask my gender, right? Like it's, yeah. And they asked for your title as well. And there's only like, you know, Miss, Mrs., Doctor, Mr., and there was no gender neutral option. And so I contacted the SFU like Department of Finance, and they never got back to me. So, you know, a bunch of people who were lower down like apologized to me, but this is something that like last year, SFU had that big like equity and LGBTQ plus like talk, and there's a lot of queer faculty that at some point must have had to fill out this form. Lots of non-binary folks, lots of, so this is maybe something that we could just have a very, very small campaign on and just be like, hey, this would take you 5 minutes for somebody in the finance department to change this form. Why don't we do that? Also, the Out on Campus is going to do an event on the 28th, and I believe it'll be in the sub. Let me see what's going on. It is Stonewall Day on Tuesday the 28th. Out on Campus is very disorganized right now, and it's only because like 3 of us students out of the bajillion are like, let's make something happen for Pride Month. But probably for most of the late morning, early afternoon, like for 4 hours or something, we're gonna use the sub to do a movie night for Stonewall and some open mic or something. But I'll send info as soon as possible, but please, like, yeah, you can help us promote it and then take credit for it, because I don't know how much capacity Out on Campus has to actually pull it together.
Shauna.
Yeah, talking about like the university side of things, I'm on the UAAC committee too, so I can definitely take that there as well, because I think it is communicating with the university, but of course as VPs, we all have like access to communicating with the university and advocating, but bringing that there too, so we have support, because I feel like this is like something which we can bring across, and like if we have numbers of students as well, bringing in council to this is, if folks are comfortable bringing this to council as well, launching a campaign. So I'm pretty sure that we can probably start it up here, talk to the University Academic Affairs Committee too, talk to the Equity and Sustainability Committee, and seeing how we can like all work together on this, get our numbers, mobilize, campaign, and get that change happening. Thank you for bringing that up. By the way, I'm taking notes for everything, and also feel free for like agenda items for next week, putting these in for discussion items, so we can like actually start planning and like have like concrete plans, and like make groups within our committee for like, okay, this will be your project, let us know how we can support. Yeah, 100%. Also, thank you for sharing the event. Amazing. I know that we can also like promote on the SFSS social media too, so like let's get the word out. Yeah.
Thanks, Shauna. So I'll bring this discussion item to a close, but we will revisit it again. We will, similar to how Shauna has her annual plan in a PDF document, we'll create our own too for the committee. So as we continue thinking of these ideas, we'll formulate them in a doc, pass it as a committee, and it will get presented to council at some point. So yeah, keep noting these things down, and we'll revisit this conversation again, probably at the next meeting. Yeah, at the next meeting. So we have 11.3, which is development sessions for members of ECAC. Shauna?
Yes. So I know I touched on developmental sessions. So right now, the ones that we're planning are on public speaking and lobbying 101, and also campaigning 101. We're still figuring out who can hold these. So we're talking to staff on that. But we're just wondering what kind of developmental sessions would you folks want to have? Also, always email me too if you think of something later on, but if right now, let me know.
Nebula, go ahead.
Okay, I have done a little bit of lobbying, and I actually have been hired by Organize BC in the past to give an organizing 101 workshop. I have a load of their materials because they currently don't have the capacity to do any workshops, and I'm very happy to do a workshop for all of you, for anybody, really. But I don't know what the ethics of it are, because I usually charge money for it, and I don't know if there's some way that I can like be compensated for labor, because I am happy to do these workshops, but also like, yeah, like I don't want people to think that these are just a thing that people go around doing for free, because it is labor. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Did anyone else want to add to this as well? Ashana?
Yeah, that sounds great. Like, of course, we can like find out like logistics and stuff like that, seeing how, so we're definitely going to have, we're gonna like figure out like for sure. I think the public speaking, campaigning and all that is set in stone, but I think that's done by staff. But if not, we can definitely like have those conversations about like you presenting as well, which would honestly sound super cool to me. Seeing how like that would work. In terms of things that like aren't listed too, any thoughts on this, or any developmental sessions you think that I may not have thought of? Because Gabe and I we were brainstorming, but we weren't sure. Ria put in the chat: base building, mobilizing, organizing, media relations, press releases, etc. Yes, that sounds super great. That's all cool ideas. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think also talking to our campaigning organizer as well, like within the SFSS, seeing what they have to say about the projects that we have coming, especially like as a committee, like for your projects as well, how we can like best campaign for it. Also media relations, I guess like in terms of talking to media as well, in terms of like the news, if we get interviewed, we can, oh yeah, Nebula agrees as well. Media relations is great. I love that. Definitely, if we're like in consensus, that sounds great. Yeah, any other ideas?
All right, seeing none, those are some great ideas. I've written them down, Ashana, I'm sure you've written them down too. Yeah, and did you want to touch on, Ashana, when we're thinking of having development sessions?
Yeah, so right now I'm not sure for time frames because we're still figuring out like who is speaking to what, but I'm assuming like the next ECA meeting is in 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure that we can set one up for like even next week. Not next week, in the next 2 weeks. So maybe at the next committee meeting, I might try and do like when developmental session, when like not, until we like run out of things to have development sessions on, or until we find new developmental sessions. But yeah, any other thoughts on this, on how we can make it better? Or like a schedule that you folks would like?
You don't have have an answer right now, you can also think about that and let Shauna know. Okay, well, thanks to Shauna. And I think we have one more discussion item before we call it a night, and that is overview of the notion for the ECAC, excuse me.
Yes, I'll just pull it up right now. It's this isn't like too much to talk about because I'm still setting it up. I'm just letting you folks know that we have a notion that I am planning on using very regularly once I have it set up. But basically, notion, it's to see what projects we're doing, what we've completed, and then what we haven't started and things like that. So this is all kind of from last year's, but Matt kind of like put it into mine to like so I can see like what I need to work on to like build on from what was done in the past year. You can see I like put one thing today, and it's the Removing International Student Health Fee campaign, which is in progress right now, which we're going to be having a town hall on. This is what was completed by Matt, but I'm also kind of using it and like going through it to see how things were done and how things were successful and completed. So then this is kind of like what I'm going to be referring to. There's a task list, and then we also have a way where like I can assign tasks to you folks as well. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is like, you know, when your like laptop starts making that like wind noise. Yeah, it's doing that. So I know it's like feeling overworked. I won't go into too much detail, but basically there's a task list, and then I'm hoping that all of you folks can get added to this. And then for tasks, I can just delegate them in terms of your projects as well. So I can see, we can all see what type of projects we're doing, and then how we can all support each other. And then we can just assign things once talking about it, and if folks have capacity to help with projects. So yeah, just wanted to introduce this. We're going to have like more of an in-depth kind of session to this once I have it all set up. And then I'll make sure to get your council emails connected to that too. We're like seeing if I can make one so it's easier, but yeah, just so folks know. And I want to use it so it's more organized and we know what we're doing. But yeah. Any questions on it?
Sounds good. Thanks to Shauna for that overview. Okay, we'll move on to announcements, and there is just one announcement. So our next ECAC meeting is going to be tentatively that date is correct. This meeting was initially supposed to be on Monday, but it got bumped to Tuesday. So the actual meeting dates are going to be Mondays. How does that time work for everyone? Let's pause actually and chat about that. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that's what you were talking. Excuse me, just ignore everything I just said. The announcement is supposed to say June 27th, not July 27th. Nabila, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, if we have to correct the agenda, that's fine, whatever. I don't really, yeah, that date works for me. SF Perg's a little bit more flexible because we're less people. So SF Perg meets at the same time on alternating Mondays, but I think we can alternate it so that, yeah, I'm not trying to be in two places at once.
Ishana?
Yeah, would it be, I don't know if this is easier or harder. What do folks think about when to meet? But also, I just don't know. Would folks want that? To see what works best for us, or is this kind of Monday time in the evening okay?
Nabila just said, I think it's easier just to pick a day and stick to it. Matthew?
I would agree with that. What Nabila just said in the chat. Also, I did check my work schedule. It does seem to work for me for the next while. But I should make it known I'm working a part-time job, and those are notorious for having shifting and altering schedules. So I will keep you all updated as time moves forward.
Thank you, Matt. Any other, anything else folks want to share on the meeting time? If none, then I will announce that the next meeting is June 27th, 2022, and it will be in person. There will be a hybrid option, however, so there's no obligation to be in person. And we will send out what room it is in. We have a really good meeting room with fantastic hybrid capabilities. It's not the same one we did council orientation, and that one's kind of shite, but there's a smaller one that is in our staff offices that is actually quite good in terms of hybrid capabilities. So we'll probably meet in that room. And I don't think so. The reason it's 3 hours is because we were toying with the idea of like the first hour is a dev session and then the rest is the actual meeting, like the official meeting where we're convened as a committee. Not sure if that's exactly how it's going to work yet, but we just put 5 to 8 in case that's how we end up rolling. Yeah, likely it'll be like 5 to 7 if we're just having a meeting, not a development session. But I think, Ashana, you were just mentioning maybe we'll alternate between having like an actual meeting, between having a meeting and a development session. So it might end up being where we have the whole 2 hours as a dev session instead of splitting it up between the two. I hope I didn't make things confusing. I hope that makes sense. So that's that. We'll move into adjournment. We're at item 18.1, and we can say, move the motion, be it resolved to adjourn the meeting at 8:13 p.m. Is there a mover? Matthew moves. Is there a second? Nebula seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor seeking unanimous consent? Seeing none, that is carried unanimously, and the meeting is adjourned.
Good job, everybody.